Hi, I'm Robbie and welcome to Chatting Tracks. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Pearl Jam's 10 album. Now, we love this album so much, we had to split it into two parts, the A side and the B side. But stick around and you'll find out why I can't see Pearl Jam live anymore and also how I appeared in a Pearl Jam video. Still can't believe that happened. Stick around and you'll find out what happened. Let us know in the comments what your favourite album is by Pearl Jam, your favourite single whenever you've seen them live. Also, hit something in the comments and let us know what other albums you think we should look at. We really hope you enjoy this and we'll see you on the next one.
Chatting Tracks. Let's talk music.
Okay, so today we're looking at Pearl Jam's 10, released on the 27th of August 1991 on Epic Records. As ever, my wonderful partner in crime, Andy Parker's with me today to talk about this amazing album. It might get incendiary during this. We're going to talk about some amazing subjects as well, and we're going to touch on some subjects that might be a little bit close to the bone as well, so just be aware, because there's a song on this album which is definitely close to the bone. Anyway, let's get started. Andy, when did this record first come into your life, and when did you first hear it?
Oh, so this album has been in my life almost since the day it was born. When it was released over in England, I didn't get straight on board it. But at the time I was at college in my first year, I think it was just before I met you, to be fair. Mm-hmm. And there was a group of people we'd hang about in this area that was called The Block. And there was a group of people, and I was hanging around with a few that were a little bit older than me, a year older. And I was invited to go down to Southend to watch a gig at the weekend. Why not? I love music. I turned up at the venue, which was the Esplanade, and saw Pearl Jam live for the very first time in 1991. Still brings a tear to my eye now. I don't really remember much about the gig, but I do remember leaving the venue because obviously I didn't know who they were. I remember leaving the venue thinking, wow, what was that? And I then found the album 10, brought a cassette, took it into college and continued to play it regularly from that moment on, and got an awful lot of people involved with Pearl Jam. There are bands to which people form a special connection, and Pearl Jam is the band that I have the most special connection with. They are my favourite band in the world.
We're going to be asking, obviously in the title, is this album a classic or is it a 90s relic? And that's a question we're going to answer during this deep dive into this album. Now, I seem to remember that I started college in 1992 when I met you, and you were the one that actually gave me the 10 cassette and got me to listen to it. But I thought you had a bootleg copy. I didn't think you bought it. Someone had a bootleg somewhere, and that's the version I heard first.
Yeah, there was a bootleg copy. I think that was because the original got played to death right before I met you. That was probably the second iteration of that cassette. It had, literally was played on repeat. Anybody who was in the area at any time would just stick it back on and listen to it. Some of the tracks on here were part of the soundtrack of college, really. It's amazing. But yeah, we it was recorded again and again and again. There were different copies of it knocking around at college. So yeah, you probably were introduced to a bootleg copy of it.
I kind of like it that way because it has a sort of pirate version of how I found Pearl Jam. But a little later in the video, I'm going to explain why I can't see Pearl Jam live again. And Andy was there when we watched it, and we'll go through that as well. I think it's a story worth talking about. So stick around to the end for that. We're going to tell you why I personally can't see him live ever again. But yeah, I remember the album, getting it and just listening to it, and it just literally blew my world. I mean, what a time to be into music like you and I were at college around the early 90s, because you had the grunge movement coming out. You also had dance music coming out. You had your boy bands as well. You had reggae in the charts. You had a real mix of music in England in particular that was just making everything so interesting. And then these bands would come through and absolutely shine out. Nirvana has to be up there as well. We're going to look at Nirvana in the future at some point. But Pearl Jam is definitely there as well. But I think what hit hard about this album, for me in particular, is the songwriting ability of the band, and also the lyric writing of Eddie Vedder is incredible. We're going to go through some of these songs in a second. And when you're a young guy listening to this music that's hitting you completely different, it was almost like he understood you better than anybody else, including your parents and even sometimes your mates. What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, I can honestly say that I felt like I knew Eddie Vedder just purely through the lyrics that he'd written. It was almost like he was looking into my soul and he knew me. He spoke about things that were going on in my life at the time or had gone on previously, and it was almost like he was touching every nerve in every song. You know, and that's probably the main reason why I fell in love with Pearl Jam. From a musical point of view, there's so much variety in what they do. They can go from really heavy to very melodic and quite calm and placid music, and everything in between. Lyrically, though, I can't think of anybody that I would rather have write a song for me than Eddie Vedder.
That's fantastic. Don't forget, this is a three-way conversation. Andy and I talk about this, but feel free to hit us up in the comments if you disagree or agree, or you want to tell us about when you first saw Pearl Jam live, or your favourite tracks, your favourite live gig. We'd love to know as well. This is a three-way conversation. It just isn't me and Andy talking. It's about all of us. So make sure you write in and let us know what you love as well. Let's go through some tracks, because this album for a debut is an absolute monster of an album, and it's wow. I mean, what a sort of sledgehammer of an album to come out and hit you at once. You open up with Once as well, which is just the most amazing building. Starts slow, gets faster, but you know, it says once upon a time I could control myself, once upon a time I could lose myself. You know, when you're 18, 19, it's exactly what it's like, that confusion between the morality lines of being an 18-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The actual instrumental intro to that is called Master Slave, and that bookends the album. It's at the beginning of the album, and the same piece of music is played at the end, almost like you could just play that on a loop, which we did. But it kind of was designed that way as well. But that softness draws you in, brings you closer, and then it punches you square in the face when once the actual music kicks in. And it just kicks the door in. You know, it really is a statement of like, listen to this. Here we are, you know. It's right. The song suggests that the album's not going to be a light or an easy listen. You know, it's got something to say. This was part of a trilogy called Mama Son, and there were 3 songs in that: Once, Alive, and Footsteps. 2 of those are on the album. Once is the middle portion of that. It kind of tells this traumatic story of a boy who's grown up not knowing that that his dad isn't his dad. It's his real father somewhere else. He then finds out that he'd passed away, and so on and so forth. He then has an experience with his mother that is a little bit inappropriate and kind of goes off the rails. And this song Once is about that boy going off the rails. Now, as I understand it, Eddie Vedder kind of wrote that Mama Son trilogy about something, but drew a lot from his own personal experience, because he didn't find out that who his true father was until he was in his early teen years. So that kind of mirrors the song, and that you can kind of hear this sort of autobiographical theme through it. Now, obviously, he's going to be given some creative and poetic license, but there is some truth drawn from that trilogy.
Yeah.
You know, there's some of the lyrics in this song as well are just incredible. The once upon a time I could control myself. He suggests that he's lost control, you know, which is... This whole album really deals with mental instability, isolation, all those sort of things, you know, homelessness. It deals with a lot of different social problems, and really points a finger and shines a light on these problems. And that's something that Eddie Vedder has done throughout his entire career as a performer and an artist. And he has opened my eyes to a lot of things I wasn't aware of. Was only drawn towards and found out about because Eddie had spoken on them. You know, this is a really powerful example of how a band tells a story through music. It's just incredible.
If I can quote Eddie, he said, the songs on 10 are personal. They were written as a way of working through things. I never expected in a million years for people to sing them back to me. So like you were saying there, yeah, it was that sort of, you're right. It's like a cathartic experience for Eddie, writing these lyrics and putting it to this music. Obviously, Pearl Jam, people know Pearl Jam lore. Andy Wood unfortunately passed away, the original singer of Mother Love Bone, and then they were going to split up, and they decided to do something. Then they found Eddie, sent him a cassette, and he sung his own lyrics over the cassette. And then when it came back, they sort of said, "Oh, actually, this is completely different. That he's not trying to copy Andy Wood and things like that." And that's why basically Eddie was hired. I want to say hired, to be fair. If there's a fantastic documentary called 20 for people that don't know about it, which is all about the Pearl Jam career, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. And it goes through the whole history, although they do skip over the bit about the drummers, which they should explain a bit more. Starting the record there once, like you say, you've got this lovely build and this sound, and then you've got this really lo-fi guitar, which is, yet again, they come in melodically, they come in slow, then they sort of put a lo-fi guitar in, and then they hit you as well. And it's just interesting how they sort of did that, that it wasn't like a little melodic intro and then it smashed in, a bit like verse, chorus, like Nirvana in Teen Spirit, where you got a little lo-fi guitar and then a smack. It starts low, and then goes large. And that's a really unusual move for a debut single from an album like that, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Especially for an opener. It's very unusual. The frenziedness of the music towards the middle and end of that song, so it really does suggest the mental stability that's completely lost. It's a clever song, and a really, really brave way to open your debut album. Really brave. From a lyrical point of view, Eddie kind of mumbles his way through it, really, as he does with quite a lot of stuff. But I think that really does help to draw you towards it, because you sort of like, what did he say? You know, and it kind of piques your interest and makes you think, what was that? Do I understand what he said? You know, and then you start to try to look more into what he's saying and all that. And I think that's a really, really, I think it was probably done on purpose. I don't think it's an accident that Eddie performs in that manner. I think that it's really, it really means to do that to you. It really means to grab you and make you go like, what? Some of the anger in his words and the violence of what he says, you know, like the what is it he says? I've got a bomb in my temple and it's going to explode. I've got a 16 gauge buried under my clothes. I play. You know, there's some sort of like oxymoron there as well, because you've got all this violence going on, and then I play.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that? You know, there's so many questions, and it's so easy to revisit over and over again and still not find the answers. Very much like life, it really. It's, you know, you go through life and you can ask these questions all the time, but there are things that can't be answered, you know.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, we should say as well, though, that, you know, the mumbling, if you want to call it, humanized Eddie to a normal listener. But also, he got terribly mocked during the 1990s for that, didn't he? The early 90s. SNL were doing sketches about him mumbling, and they called him the shoegazers, didn't they? Because they reckon he looked down all the time. So that's a great name for a band, by the way, shoegazers. But you know, he really got ridiculed for it as well. But that's the perseverance of Eddie Vedder and the strength of his singing, and the way, like you say, contains the anger. He's almost like, you know, he stares down at his shoes so he doesn't explode. That was always my take on that. And when he does go, he really goes, because then he would climb the stage, wouldn't he? And he'd flip it all up, and you know,
you can look on YouTube and search Eddie Vedder's stage climbing, and there are actually videos that are up to 20 minutes long of different times where Eddie Vedder has climbed stages, and some of the positions that man has been in are scary. It's frightening, you know. He's climbing across the top of stage, and he's up like 40 foot up in the air and things like that. And he's
hanging by one hand. Yeah, hanging by one hand.
But what a visual performer. I mean, he didn't do that at the Esplanade. Obviously, it wasn't big enough in there to do it. But I really wish I'd seen him do that, because by the time I saw him again, I think he'd kind of grown out of that. I don't think he was doing that as much, if at all. And I don't think he ever did it overseas here anyway. I don't think he ever had the opportunity.
I think it'll probably be an insurance issue. Yeah, I'm insuring. It's probably what he has to do that. We won't insure you. Okay, so on to Even Flow now. Beautiful. Thoughts arrive like butterflies. Oh, we don't know, so he chases them away. I mean, beautiful lyrics, simplistic lyrics if you like, if you want to look at it that way, but so powerful as well. And sometimes the simplest words are the most powerful. And even just that little line there is enough to start you on this song.
Yeah, I mean, this was an anthem at college. This was everybody's favourite track. And it's particularly, I'll give a nod to Wing Yu, a good friend of ours. He loved this song. He loved this song a lot, and it was a real favourite. Again, it's a social commentary. This song, it's about homelessness. It's about it's a story of Eddie walking around and seeing people homeless in the streets, and the even flow, thoughts arrive like butterflies. It describes the sort of scattered thoughts, and a disordered mind and all that sort of stuff, so he chases them away. Rest his head on a pillow made of concrete. This guy's sleeping on the streets. There's some real depth to Pearl Jam's lyrics, the kind of depth that I, as a 17, 18-year-old lad, hadn't really heard before. That sort of social commentary, I bet it was quite rare back in the 90s and late 80s. Definitely in the late 80s, it was rare to hear that sort of social commentary in music. It was very, very pop. There wasn't a great deal, or classic rock. Really, towards the end of the 80s, there was a lot of classic rock, and it was a lot of rock ballads and a lot of metal sort of stuff going on. And then along come Pearl Jam and start talking about homelessness and and mental instability and all this sort of stuff. And now we should be focusing on these people. We should pay attention to them. They shouldn't, you shouldn't just pass them by and ignore them. And I think that's what this song really is all about. The lyrics are beautiful. The music is in complete contrast, because it sounds like such an upbeat song and everything. And it's just so clever. It was an anthem because it was so upbeat, but it keeps you coming back because it's so deep.
I mean, I think it tells when you've got, homeless people sleeping outside of millionaires' houses and belongs to flats. So you get why Eddie would look at that and go, that's not right. But pre-grunge, you've got all the glam bands like Motley Crue and Rat and Poison and all these bands. And then, you've, like you said, Pearl Jam and grunge come in, and it makes you more, it's not about girls and money and cars. It's now about mental instability, homeless issues, looking around, and it's kicking the dirt in people's faces a bit, which hadn't done. You're absolutely right. You had the access years, and then you've got the sort of reality years, and that's where it came in. And it makes you wonder, being Gen Xers like we are, is that's maybe why it hit so hard, because we wasn't have especially in England, we didn't have these glam bands that were all about pie, and we didn't have the Hollywood Strip and all that sort of stuff. We did Sunset Strip. We just had the reality of rain. And it makes you wonder, if Eddie was from England, would it have been a different song?
Possibly. I don't know. There's never been an English writer that's written so poetically about such difficult subjects, in my opinion. You could argue Tom York does, but I still don't believe that Tom is as poetic as Eddie Vedder. Could it have been written in England? Yeah, it could. We've got the same problems. We do have these problems, especially if you're in big cities. I don't think we have it to the degree that they do in America, though.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, Paul McCartney, you'd be a close second, I think, because when you get to Eddie, I mean, that's still pretty old. Yeah, I like a bit of that as well. So, Stone Gossard said, we wanted to make a record sound huge like Zeppelin or The Who, British bands again, and we weren't trying to go for lo-fi or indie. But I think that's what they were going for. But unfortunately, I don't think they got it. I think it does sound like a massive sounding album, and to me that's what I love it for, and I think that's why I like that album, because it has the contrast between quiet and loud and all that sort of stuff, and that's what makes it work for me. So Mike McCready said, recording Inflow was hell. We did it over and over. I couldn't get the solo right, and now we just jammed it differently every single night. So it was a one take song for him as well. It said, I channeled Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix and Ace Frehley, and that was my holy trinity. So basically they were trying to emulate these guys, but then by mashing up their own style, they've got this amazing sound out of it as well. So we're now up to a song which opens with the line, son, she said, I've got a little story for you. When I first heard her live, this was the track that, even just listening to the album for the first time, that song really hit hard and the riff hit hard. And what an amazing song this is. And the way it just takes you on a journey through this conversation with a mum and a son is incredible. And Andy, what's your take on this song?
It's another anthem. It really is. I think the opening 3 songs on this album, there's not been a down point at this point. You know, it's just banger after banger after banger at the moment. This is another one of the Mama Son trilogy. This is the opening part. This is the reason that boy gets so traumatized. You know, son, she said, have I got a little story for you? Doesn't suggest anything like what you're going to get on the way through. It's sort of like, I said, got a little story, you know, and then all of a sudden, your dad's dead. You know, this fella that we're living with, he's not your dad, mate. You know, it's like, hold on. This was, when Eddie wrote it, he wrote it to be a negative, a curse. It wasn't meant to be what the fans and audiences turned it into, because it kind of, Eddie has said himself that it gets sung back to him, and it's kind of like this celebration now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be that. This is a curse. This is supposed to be rooted in anger, you know, and I'm still alive. It's not a positive in the way that the lyrics fall around it, you know. It's kind of like, I'm still alive. You know, it's a really, really dark and deep song that has taken on a completely different life from the fans.
Yeah.
You know, from the way that people have heard it and understood it. It's a classic. It is an absolute classic. And if this is, as I don't know, but I imagine that those 3 songs, it's always been said that Eddie Vedder was sent music. He wrote lyrics, and that's how he got into the band. Now, I believe, rightly or wrongly, that the 3 songs he wrote were the Mama Son trilogy. I believe he wrote those lyrics, he come back, and that was how, as we said before, he got into the band. If this was one of those songs, there's no question in my mind that if it wasn't Pearl Jam, somebody else would have snapped up Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder would have always been who Eddie Vedder has become, because if he's writing that sort of stuff before he's even got into a band, you know, of Pearl Jam's caliber, then my God, what a mind, what a brain that guy has. It's so clever, it's so dark, it's so emotive, and it's frightening. It's frightening how somebody can articulate those sort of feelings and emotions so clearly and so poignantly that I can't even imagine where his brain was at that time. It's just amazing. It's just brilliant.
It's a brilliant track, and like you say, it's a misunderstood message that even, you know, I didn't realize for years it was meant to be a curse. I just thought it was a tale and not even a real one, which is, you know, like we know, as we know, it's rooted in truth. So it's amazing that he was Eddie was that sort of honest and that open, and that, you know, he was bearing his soul to the world on the debut album that A, could have flopped, and B, could have been incredibly popular, which is what it was, And then once people then, find out what it's about, he's basically just bared his soul to the entire world. What a brave thing to do on a debut album as well.
Yeah, so brave and so clever. He's just incredible. Eddie Vedder is a poet for our generation.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Okay, so we're on to a track. Yet again, we're following the journey through this album. We're on to Why I Go. She's been diagnosed by some stupid F word, can't say that. And Mummy agrees, yeah. So it's about the rage of injustice of being institutionalized and misunderstood as well. Yet again, is this another personal message that Eddie's talking about, or is it just a character we've now made? Because the album can skew between the two and you never know which one's which.
Yeah, as I understand this song, it's based again in truth. There's, in certain areas of America, there are punishments that don't quite fit the crime, and this was written about a young teenage girl who had gone off the rails just a little bit, but no, not really in a way that was dangerous to anybody or anything. She maybe had a little smoke on some herbal remedies and things like that that she maybe shouldn't have been doing. I mean, who hasn't? And she's ended up in a mental institution, and she's been put there by her parents and society. And Eddie Vedder doesn't like that. He doesn't think that's right. And this is a really short song, and there's very few lyrics in it, but what there are really, really, really emotive. She scratches a letter into a wall made of stone, so that immediately puts you in that room with her. Someday another child won't feel as alone as she does. Oh man, that touches you. Now you know that this girl is alone. And she knows that she's alone, and she feels it because she's been ostracized by the people that are supposed to love her. The people that are supposed to look after her and are supposed to care for her have put her in this cell. They've imprisoned her. And it's an awful tale. And again, it's just written so perfectly. I can't stress enough how important Eddie Vedder is as an artist, and how important the band are, because without that band, can he write this? Without those musicians around him, is this possible? Maybe, but we'll never know, and I never want to know, because this is perfect. What Eddie Vedder does on paper, what the band do in sound, is second to none, in my opinion. I'm blowing so much smoke at Pearl Jam at the minute. It's unbelievable. I did say at the beginning that they are my favourite band in the entire universe. So, I am going to say some very glowing things about them. But I think if you go and listen to the music with an open mind and take a little dive into what these songs are actually about, I'm pretty sure you'll come out of it agreeing that this is a special artist, a really special artist.
It's one of those things I was thinking about when you was talking then about what, like, she scratches a letter into a wall made of stone. Almost sounds like a horror story as well. So it's almost like a Hammer horror movie. So I was getting that imagery when I first heard the record of that sort of almost like a horror film, which is what it would be in that situation. But also, what other artists have covered that sort of institutionalized sort of John Lennon, he did John Sinclair. And this, the only two I can think of off the top of my head. The Hurricane by Bob Dylan, maybe. So you've got these, you've got these amazing artists writing about injustice. Free Nelson Mandela, but that was a group of people, so I don't think that counts. But yeah, you've got these, you've got like a social commentary, which then becomes massive to everybody as well. But, does the song change what happened? That's the question. John Lennon did John Sinclair and they let him out. People were aware of the Hurricane because of Dylan and stuff, and they eventually freed Nelson Mandela. So, did this song change anything? That's what I wonder about.
I doubt it. I don't know. I think that it's a real problem in certain areas, and then I just don't know. I don't think that, as good as this song is, that it's changed anything. I very much doubt that the girl even was freed because of it. You know, why go home?
Fantastic.
Did you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. We're on to a song now, which just floored me the first time I heard it. I'm going to read the lyric because it's so important to the song, and it's just amazing. And I remember the first time. I mean, this is over 30 years ago now. I remember the first time I heard this song, I had to stop. I had it on tape. I had to stop it after and think about it because I couldn't get past it for a minute. So the lyric is, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star in somebody else's sky, but why can't it be mine? Fucking hell. Now, I don't often swear on YouTube or on my channel, but fucking hell. That is unbelievable. Because I don't know one person that can't relate to that line. Just that on its own. If he sang that 15 times through the whole song. But, you know, about lost love and mourning lost love. And what can you say about it? You can't say anything about it really, because it's so good. It's so good. Like, sometimes it's like aliens bring these things down and just drop them off on Earth and go, we've written this and we just need an avatar. And Eddie was the avatar. Because how could one human man come out with lyrics like that? They're insanely good.
It is, in my opinion, the greatest song ever written. I honestly think that this is the most beautiful and most poignant song ever written. There is nobody in the world that hasn't been through this sort of heartbreak. It's not a romantic heartbreak. This is the sort of thing that scars your soul. This song is about the heartbreak that cuts you so deep that you will never recover. You'll never recover from it. You're going to carry this with you for the rest of your life. Black talks about that sort of heartbreak in such clarity and such vivid detail that there isn't a person over the age of 14 on the planet that can't understand the feelings behind this song. There's a video that one of the most interesting videos that I've seen in a very long time on YouTube was non-English speaking people listening to Black for the first time. It's transcendent. They understood exactly what Eddie was saying purely through the emotion that he puts into the song. And it is so perfect that if you move one word and put it somewhere else, it might only be 2 words later on in the sentence, but if you did that, you'd kill it. You'd ruin this song. It's so perfect and so beautiful that they could paint it and put it up in the Louvre. It would be black, but it would sit there and it would be the most beautiful painting in that museum.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
I love the production part of the, dare I say this without getting cold on line for this, but I think it was the 90s Hey Jude, because you've got them and then you've got the way they layer the piano under that is just absolutely perfect. Like that piano layering it as well. And then Eddie's like, whoa, those sort of like cooling, anguished vocals as well over the top. Oh, wow. And I call it the 90s Hey Jude because you've got that, and you and I have seen them live. And we both know that's the bit where everybody sings along,
Yeah.
sort of thing. They don't do, to be fair to them, they don't do what Paul McCartney does and stops and goes, you do it. No, you couldn't do that with Black. But the point is, you've got that call and response from a listener that they're not even in the same room with. And that's what I mean by it's the 90s Hey Jude. Because when you hear Hey Jude, you automatically start singing to it, don't you? And it's that call and response to a stranger, yet it still works. And like you say, I reckon you could play that end part of Black to a complete stranger, non-English speaking, if you like, and they would be able to sing that back to you straight away. No, do-do-do-do. I mean, if you played someone said, right, now sing that back to me, they could do it. They'd never heard Pearl Jam in their life. And I think that's the power of songwriting, even though there's no words on that part. It's just the melody so strong that it works. It instantly works as a melody, and it just draws you in and makes you want to sing it. And it's just the way that that track starts small and then gets really large at the end. You know what I mean? Like it becomes a beast by the end of the song, and it just keeps chugging forward, and it won't let you have a break. And it's incredible the way it does it. Absolutely incredible. Like, I can't get over it. So even now, I hear it 30 years later, I still can't get over it. It's like, it's just like,
No, it is beautiful, and it's a song that's got no real end to it. There's no resolution to this song. It leaves you. There's no answers. There are no answers to it, which is what heartbreak is. There are no answers. You know, it just hurts.
and it's also the bitterness. You know, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. It's like, just go away. You know what I mean? Like, go away. I know you're gonna have all the good things. I know you're gonna be happy without me.
Yeah.
You know,
Is it bitterness or is it resignation?
see, I want to say bitterness. I want to go down the bitterness. So let us know in the comments what you think. But I'm going bitterness. You know, to me, I saw it as a sort of sarcastic comment. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I know you'll be a star in somebody else's sky, but why not mine? You know what I mean? That's sort of like, why am I not good enough?
And this is why music is beautiful, because I've always seen it as being sort of like this acceptance, this resignation towards, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life, you know, because you know what you've lost.
Yeah.
You know what you've lost, and you just wish that it could have been different.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
It's like the next person's winning. It's the next person that wins, not you. And that's the bitter bit. That's why I think it was quite bitter, but that's just me. Let us know in the comments what you think. We'd love to know your thoughts.
Interestingly, about Black, they were under a lot of pressure to release this as a single as well, and they never did. They never bowed to that. And Eddie described it as being too personal to be a hit single. You know, it was too personal to Eddie to be a hit single, and he said, and I quote, "Some songs just aren't meant to be heard between commercials."
That's very true.
And Black should never ever be heard between commercials. It's art. It's art at its purest form.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think. We'd love to know your thoughts on Black, and any tracks on this album as well. Which one's your favourite? So now we're on to probably, dare I say, Pearl Jam's most famous track. I've got to say that because it's the one that you get the most. Is Jeremy, rooted in a tragedy, writing about social commentary as well. Try to forget this, try to erase this from the blackboard. You know what I mean? For people that don't know, a young man went into school armed with something, and basically, and I got to be careful outside of this because we're on YouTube and we'll get banned. He ended his time in front of a classroom of mates, from what we understand, and Eddie was reading about it, and he wrote about it in this song. Interestingly, there's a video that follows this. There's not many Pearl Jam videos because they didn't want to make videos. So, but this one does have a video, and it basically echoes the track, which is quite interesting. But it, you know, yet again, a really famous song with a fantastic riff, another fantastic journey. Lyrically, it's another tale written by Eddie, even though he just read it in the paper. Or heard it, and it's just amazing that you've got, yet again, it's almost like the misunderstanding of Black and the misunderstanding of Inflow, where it's quite people see it as a sort of happy song to a degree, I think, but the meaning underneath it is completely different.
Well, just the opening verse of this song, it kind of paints the picture of this childish drawing, if you like, the at-home drawing pictures of mountaintops. So in straight away you're starting to see this kid's crayon picture, if you like, with him on top, lemon yellow sun. You know, this is all kiddie sort of drawings, arms raised in a V, and the dead laying pools of maroon below, and it just suddenly drops you off a cliff.
Yeah, doesn't.
You know, it's like, whoa, hold on a minute. It's brilliant, and the chorus. Jeremy spoke in class today. He didn't speak. He made a statement, you know, and that's what that means. And it's Eddie,
Okay. Do you think the track is if it was, should they have released it as a commercial track? Do you think, like you were saying about Black, should Jeremy be released? Should it have been just an album track?
No, because this for me is the song that put Pearl Jam on the map for everyone. You know, the video, like you say, they didn't make many videos, and it was because of this. It was because of this song and because of the video for it. They got a lot of backlash for the video, and it was edited heavily on MTV because of the one particular scene in it, which depicts what actually happened to the boy at the end. And that had to be edited out. But it won awards, and everybody was then turning their eyes towards Pearl Jam and going, wow, who are these? And that's not what they wanted. They didn't want to be this big commercial mammoth machine.
Yeah.
They wanted to be this interesting band that people liked. They didn't want to be a commercial success as such. I mean, the money's always nice, but it was the fame that I think Eddie struggled with. The fame, particularly in the early days of Pearl Jam. There's politically they did a lot of things to suggest that they didn't want the fame. It was, I think, 2 years after this before they released another video to go with their song, and I think that was an animated video. It's really, my point being that without this song, Pearl Jam wouldn't have been picked up by as many people, and maybe wouldn't have had the longevity that they've got on to have, because the success of Jeremy allowed them to then continue to make music and to progress their careers and their artistry up till today. You know, I think without that song, this album is a success, but it's nowhere near the success that it became because of the release of this as a single. There are other tracks on there as well which helped to do that, but this was the one for me that put them in front of everybody, you know, because it was an award-winning video, and it really was very, very good. It was a very good video. The unedited version is hard to watch, really hard to watch, because you understand what's going on and you can see it, and it's this boy who's just being bullied and ignored, and he just wants somebody to see him, and nobody ever does, and so he makes everybody see him, and it's
amazing.
Yeah,
It's unusual to start a track with a bass as well, isn't it? You've just got like and then you got the so you got that sort of innocence at the start of the track as well.
Yes.
Then absolutely builds into the sort of at home drawing pictures part with the drum.
Yes.
So you've got a lovely start, like play like lullaby-ish start almost, that then goes absolutely smashing it as well. So even the concept of the music around the lyric is just works as it does, doesn't it? It's brilliant.
Clever. It's clever. The lyrics on this song just really, really, really good. Really good lyrics. I think the whole album is really good lyrically. I think it's really good musically. It's amazing.